right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan.
We're so excited to have Derek Blasberg with us this morning. Thank you for being here. Before we begin, just like always, we're going to start with a brief meditation. And so Andrea Gomez, one of our most recent graduates, will lead us in meditation. And then Ivan will introduce our speaker. Thank you again, Derek.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
Thank you, Andrea. I stole this from a tutorial on YouTube that Derek, our guest, was giving to Emma Chamberlain. So I will say, it is so lovely to see you, and it is lovely to see you on this Friday. Welcome to Devon's Summer in Spanish Harlem Speaker Series. Devon brings us the greatest, from Formula One to finance to filmmaking, and now to the heights of high fashion. All of our speakers have had a will to excel, but also a gentle grace and generosity of spirit that inspires others, and that has also likely aided them in their climb to the pinnacle of their profession. Those of us on the green room just saw and experienced some of that gentle grace and generosity of spirit from our speaker today, and it makes us all more comfortable to have a conversation with somebody who is truly world-renowned. Through this series that Devon is bringing us, we've looked at the wide universe of humanity and see how things converge on fundamental human virtues, moral songlines that carry through the lives of the exceptional people that are speaking to us today and throughout the summer. And Derek is no exception in this summer of great suffering, but here in Spanish Harlem with the East Harlem School, in many ways, thanks to Devon, a summer of great hope. Derek Blasberg is a man of letters. He has written 4 books and countless columns, articles, and dispatches for top international fashion publications. He is a man about town, a muse of the models. He graces parties of the beautiful and powerful, and people want to be seen with him. And he is our man on the streets. He keeps the pulse of power and beauty reflected in fashion and also deep friendships. And he is a man for all seasons. In this springtime of pandemic, Devon told me, and it should be widely known, that in this spring of pandemic, Derek Blasberg remained in our city when doors are open to him around the world. And he worked with City Wheels to deliver meals to senior citizens. And we experienced it briefly a few minutes ago. He makes this all look so effortless, but that often is the best sign of mastery. People say Derek is charming and endearing, which he is, but his success is hard won, and people like him and are drawn to him, I believe, because of age-old values that he's cultivated, values of hard work, discretion, loyalty, and well-honed writing skills and anthropological acuity of observation that have led him to the top of his profession. After a storied career in fashion journalism, Derek is now YouTube's fashion and beauty director, where he is tasked with uniting the tradition-bound international world of style with the wild west of content creators of the World Wide Web. And no one is better suited to the task than Derek Blasberg. Derek recently remarked on his Instagram that fashion is synonymous with change and resilience, And these are values we hold dear in Spanish Harlem and will stand him in good stead as he navigates the internet. None other than Simon Doonan says that Derek is a social catalyst, and that being a catalyst and some beauty is just what we need in this time of great change and turbulence. It's great to have this wonderful, wonderful guest, Derek Blasberg, to bring some light and beauty in a time of enormous change and challenge. My pleasure to introduce, and it's so lovely to see him, Derek Blasberg.
My God, that was excruciating. Jeez. I didn't know, how can I follow that up? You made me sound so good. Hi guys, my name is Derek Blasberg. I'm the head of fashion and beauty at YouTube. I'm in New York too, and of course, there's been no construction for months until today, so I'm sorry if you hear some jackhammering outside. I thought it would be more quiet, but as you all know, in this town, you never know what you're gonna get. So I'm happy to meet you all. Thanks to Ivan for having me, and teachers for sharing you all your time with me today, and thanks to Devin for making this all happen. I'm not sure if there's an agenda or if anybody has any questions. I can tell you just really briefly where I come from. I can give you my quick little bio. So I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. I moved to New York to go to college when I was 18 years old. This may blow your mind, but I moved to New York before Facebook, before Instagram, before Twitter. So I actually moved to New York. I didn't know a single person. I moved into the dorms. I had no friends. I had no like sweet aunt to make me Sunday dinner. I was young and I guess innocent enough to do it. So I moved to New York. I graduated with a degree in journalism. I really wanted to be a writer. I thought I was going to work in magazines or newspapers for my whole career. I graduated and I started working at American Vogue. Vogue, the most incredible, biggest fashion magazine in the world. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I was fired from Vogue after I got fired for being the worst assistant in Vogue history. So I was probably too young and too inexperienced for that job. And I felt humiliated when I was fired because I thought I was going to work there my whole life. But as I'm sure you've heard before from other speakers, sometimes in our darkest moments when we see the stars. And so I actually learned more from my one experience, from my 1 year at Vogue, getting tortured and ultimately getting fired, than I did in my 4 years of journalism school. After Vogue, I worked for some other websites, some other magazines. I worked for Harper's Bazaar. I worked for Vanity Fair. I had a show called CNN Style on CNN. And then 2 years ago, I went to YouTube to launch their fashion and beauty vertical. I won't bore you with too much about how my job works, but to boil it down into a couple sentences, as I'm sure you've seen, as I'm sure your teachers would prefer you not to do too often, there is quite a lot of fashion and beauty content on YouTube. There is reviews of new sneakers. I don't know if you guys have seen the new Nike Dior sneakers that are incredible. There's hair tutorials, makeup tips, fashion shows. There's over 2 billion hours of fashion beauty content currently on the platform, and that number is just getting bigger and bigger. So what my job is to do is to help curate and strategize with fashion brands like Nike or Gucci or Louis Vuitton, to strategize and conceptualize with magazines like Vogue or Vanity Fair about how on their YouTube content, and then to help get hairstylists, makeup artists, and models on the platform. So I don't know if you guys know models like Naomi Campbell or Carly Kloss, or I mean, Naomi Campbell just turned 50 this year, so she's been in this industry for longer than I have, and longer than a lot of you guys have been alive. But she's an icon, and we work with her on her YouTube channel. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell. My job is not as cool as Lewis Hamilton. I didn't know. Like, I told Devin, why did she make me go after that guy? I love Lewis Hamilton. I'm not a race car driver, but I do like my job, and I'm happy with what I do, even if it's not as cool as being a race car driver.
Wonderful. Let me just take you a little bit back down memory lane before we open it up to questions. We've got a lot of great questions queued up. Can you tell us what it was like when you were in middle school, when you were around the age of 12? How did you see the world? How did the world welcome you? And then, and then we'll open it up.
What's sort of fascinating about how I grew up in the middle of the country. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and it was pre-digital. So my 12-year-old scope on the world was extremely limited. I had never seen a fashion show. I had never heard of Louis Vuitton. My idea of high fashion was going to the Gap at the mall. And to me, I thought I was the best dressed kid in school because I wore Old Navy. And so my 12-year-old scope was very limited. The idea of moving to New York, of working in fashion, I didn't know what a photographer did. I didn't know what an art director did. I didn't know that there were these makeup artists and hairstylists. I didn't know that there was this whole industry until I moved to New York. And when I discovered it, I realized it was something that I really wanted to do. Growing up in St. Louis, I had one older brother. I lived with my parents. I had a very sheltered, traditional American family. We didn't lock our doors at night. It was very American. And so also when I moved to New York, I had to get some street smarts, which I think kids who grew up in New York or grew up near New York are much better equipped. So my 12-year-old view was basically to the end of my street. And I think what's incredible about being 12 years old now and having access to everything that we do have now is that you're already growing up with a much bigger perspective. And that's pretty incredible. And that's not only just in the world of fashion, that's also in politics and health and science. Speaking of Carly Kloss, I don't know if some of your students know her. She has a coding scholarship. And to be very honest with you, I still don't know what coding is, but I definitely didn't know what coding was when I was 12 years old. So when I meet these young people who are so much more advanced technologically, I'm super impressed. Yeah.
Beautiful. So can we open it up to questions now?
Yes.
All right.
I'm tired of hearing my own voice.
Wonderful, wonderful.
All right, our first question comes from Yuritsi.
Hi, my name is Yuritsi. I'm in the 7th grade. I am really inspired myself to pursue a career in the fashion industry. Clothes help express a person's identity. One question I have for you is, what is your opinion on the fact that some brands of clothing or certain pieces of clothing don't always come in plus size and therefore don't fit everyone? Another question I have for you is, what advice do you have for someone who wants to pursue a career in the fashion industry?
Hi, Yuritsi. Thank you for asking those questions. They're two really great questions. So when it comes in to address your first question about size inclusivity, I think right now it's impossible to be a brand that doesn't make a huge variety of sizes. To speak very candidly with you, I think in the 80s and in the 90s, the idea of fashion was a very small scope, a very elitist view. There wasn't a lot of opportunities for female photographers, for female fashion designers, for plus size models. And I think in the past 5 years, that has really been turned upside down. I think fashion today, the words that I like to hear and that are important to hear when I'm working with fashion people are sustainability, inclusivity, and what's been even more incredible has been seeing so many brands that cater more to size inclusivity than to the old idea of fashion. So there are now brands like Universal Standard, Good American. There are really cool fashion brands that are looking at the other end of the size spectrum that I think in 5 years will be more valuable, both monetarily and also to society, than these sort of old school, old idea passe fashion brands. So that was a very long-winded way of saying, I think to survive in fashion, you have to be able to include not only different sizes, but heights, mobilities. I've actually seen a lot of fashion companies that are building special lines for people in wheelchairs, for disabilities. So I think your question is spot on and timely, and I think there's a lot of people asking that question, and now the people who are making the fashion have to answer it. The second question you asked was about how to get started in fashion. I get asked that question a lot, and it's sort of funny because when I was young, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, I had no idea what fashion was. So it wasn't until I was 18 years old and I was in New York that I was able to, I was an assistant stylist for 6 months, which basically means I just got coffee and steamed clothes and like held lights on shoots. I was an intern at Vogue for 6 months. I worked in the press office of David Urban, which was a jewelry company, as an assistant for 6 months. I had this mantra all 4 years of college that I was easy to work with and happy to be here. So whenever, and I have to say that I had to lie a lot because I wasn't always happy to be there. But the best training ground I got to work in fashion were these low-level jobs, these internships, when you really get to see how the system's built from the ground up. I know that, in New York City, there's been a lot of shifts on what qualifies as an internship. Now, sometimes internships need to have college credit. Now, sometimes, a lot of magazines no longer can accept interns because of new legislation. But I believe that there's always someone who's looking for help in this business, and so I hope you can find a good internship. If in a couple of years you still want to work in this wild fashion world, I hope you can find some people that will help you show you how to do it. I promise all my answers won't be this long. Sorry. I'll shorten it up.
No, it's wonderful. We don't want sound bites. No, the kids have really thought about these questions. Good. We're excited. So.
Or just cut me off if I get boring. If I start rambling, just put a hand over the camera.
Okay, you'll do that, Sitlali? You'll do that for
Or just turn off your screen. Just walk away if it's boring.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sitlali. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, in your opinion, do you think that the fashion industry will change due to the pandemic, or because of what is happening now with protests for racial justice?
Hi, Sitlali. It's great to meet you, and that's another great question. So I don't think any industry in the world is going to be the same after coronavirus and the social justice protesting. And I definitely don't think fashion is going to be the same. On the one hand, I look at just how I have been consuming fashion. I have only bought clothes from Lands' End Pajamas and Nike.com in the past 6 months. And that's because I eat so much. I'm trying to work out so I can still fit into all my other clothes when we get on the other side of this. So I definitely think right now brands are thinking about, price affordability. I think people are shopping less. I think we're going to see a lot more pants with elasticated waistbands. I think we're going to see a lot more drawstring trousers. And that's due to people working from home, going out less, socializing less. I think also companies will start producing less fashion, which is probably a good thing if we think about landfills. I think people are shopping less. I think people are realizing they had a lot of stuff in their closet that they hadn't worn in a long time. And I definitely think around like the Black Lives Matter protests, there's a woman called Aurora James, and Aurora James has a accessories company. And last month she came up with something called the 15% pledge. And the 15% pledge is her initiative where she asks companies to make sure that at least 15% of their shelf space is devoted to Black-owned businesses. And there has been an incredible response to that. Sephora, which is one of the biggest, I'm sure some people on this call, much to their family chagrin, are familiar with Sephora. So Sephora is one of the biggest beauty and makeup providers, has committed to the 15% pledge. West Elm, the furniture store, is committed to the 15% pledge. So I definitely think that everything that's happened around Black Lives Matter, Black Trans Lives Matter, around all these social justices, it's definitely going to impact every part of our lives. But I definitely see a lot of impact in the fashion world, which I think is incredible. And I definitely think it's not going to be a trend. And I think a lot of this stuff will have long-lasting effects. At least I hope it does. And I know that the people I work with, to be very honest with you, I'm the only white guy on my entire team. We have a super diverse group of LGBTQ+, Black, Asian. We have an incredibly diverse team, which I'm super proud of. And I also know that they are going to make sure that all the stuff happening around Black Lives Matter is not just a trend too.
Beautiful.
Which is good news. So the answer is yes. The answer to both of your questions. See, I talk too much. The answer is
she would have cut you off. She would have cut you off. It was perfect. Right, you're on, Leslie.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi. Hi, my name is Leslie. I'm in the 7th grade, and I have read so many articles about your work, and I think what you do is so amazing and really inspiring. My question for you is, what are the qualities about fashion that attracts you to it? And what are the steps you would advise someone to take so they can pursue their dreams and be who they aspire to be?
Leslie, I'm flattered that you've read anything that makes me blush. So thank you for reading that. To be honest with you, when I was your age, I liked arts. I liked movies. I liked, I understood that my mind was a little bit more creatively wired. I wasn't the best at math and science. So I knew I wanted to do something in the creative world. And then when I got to New York and I encountered this fashion industry, I was very quickly swept up into the excitement and creativity of runway shows, of fashion shoots, of makeup, of beauty makeovers, of retail spaces. And so I realized early on that this world was the one that I loved. I loved the idea of people expressing themselves through the way that they dressed. I loved the sociology behind how what's happening in the world can affect the clothes that we see in stores. So that's what really appealed to me. Also, I should mention there's a lot of very fun, creative, fabulous people in the fashion world, also in the art world and in the creative worlds. My dad was an accountant and my mom worked at a medical journal that specialized in heart transplants. So I was not exposed to a lot of the creative arts as a young person. So when I got to New York and I encountered fashion, I was like, oh my gosh, where have all these people been my whole life? This is where I want to work. This is what I want to do. So that's what appealed to me about working in the fashion world. And about your question on, and how I got started, or how someone who wanted to work in fashion was to get started, it's sort of the same thing as I mentioned earlier. I really started at the bottom. I started sweeping the floors and getting the coffees, but I was always listening and learning, and I guess that's what paid off. I shouldn't admit this, but I moved to New York 20 years ago. So, a lot of, and my first job was my very first job that I got when I was going to school was in New York. I was an assistant at Elite Model Management, which was a modeling agency. So I love my job and I love what I do now, but I've been sort of climbing this ladder for 20 years. So I don't know if that's a very good, if that's the advice you want to hear, but I started at the bottom and I've been hacking away at this for 2 decades. So here I am.
Okay, we're gonna go to Troy next.
What's up, Troy?
Hi. Hi, my name is Troy. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, as like an expert on fashion and beauty products, what's your personal favorite place to buy beauty products and clothes, like your brand?
So when I was your age, I used to go to the mall all day, every day. Like that was partly because I loved fashion, and partly because growing up in New York, partly because growing up in Missouri, there was nothing else to do. So when I was young, I would be at the mall, and there was all those brands that still exist. There was Gap, there was American Eagle, there was Abercrombie, and so I used to spend all day going in and out of these stores. As I've gotten older, some of the companies that I really admire now, I love Nike.com. I mentioned earlier, I mean, it's because I haven't had to put on a suit or go to a meeting. So I buy a lot of stuff at Nike.com. There's a shop in New York called the Webster, which is a department store. And so I find a lot of cool, young, new designer stuff there. But honestly, I spend a lot of time watching YouTube, and they'll do like really great reviews. Instagram I spend a lot of time on. What's sort of fascinating, I think when you guys are my age, I don't think malls and department stores as we know them will exist. I think there'll be a couple of like really cool, prestigious shops that will become destinations. They'll probably have cafes and restaurants. Like you'll go there for lunch and then you'll like see what's there. But when I was 12 years old, the only thing to do was go to the mall. And I just don't, I think now when everyone shops online and on their phones and on their fingertips, I think malls will be less pervasive when you guys are old like me.
All right, we're gonna go to Zoshi Quetzali next.
Hi, my name is Sochi Quetzali. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, I learned from your biography that you are a writer for Vanity Fair. What is one of your favorite pieces you have written for Vanity Fair, and why?
That's a great question. So, did you guys ever see Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson? Emma Watson, she played the part of Hermione Granger in all the Harry Potter movies. So in, I guess, maybe 2017 or 2018, Emma played the part of Belle in a new version of Beauty and the Beast. And I wrote the cover story for Vanity Fair on her. And it was actually she had a very cool idea. So when I wrote the piece, what she wanted to do was take a bunch of Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou is an incredible Black poet, and she had a book called Me and My Mom and Me. And so Emma Watson bought a bunch of Maya Angelou's books, and we went onto the New York City subway and left them on the subway to give out to people who were riding the train, with a little note that said, you know, please take this book if you're interested in reading Maya Angelou, which I thought was a crazy thing to do, and a great idea to help spread poetry and the work of Maya Angelou in the city. So if I had to pick one story, that would have been it, because that was a fun and crazy thing to do.
Right, thanks. We're gonna go to Alexa next, who has a good question.
Howdy, Alexa.
Hi, my name is Alexa. I am in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, what is the funniest or stranger things that you ever seen happen during a live fashion show? And can you share any of your stories?
What's the craziest thing I've seen at a fashion show? Well, you know, sometimes the shoes that they give the girls to wear at a fashion show are very impractical. So sometimes we see people fall down, which is, and oftentimes the models, they laugh it off. There's a very famous picture of Naomi Campbell falling down at a fashion show. It was from, I think, like, you know, 25 years ago, but the shoes were probably like this high, and they were made of latex, and so she couldn't walk, so she fell down. So that sometimes happens at a fashion show, and that will make sure you're paying attention. Last year, you guys are probably too young to know who this is, because this guy is even old for me. So if he's old for me, I can imagine how old he is for you guys. But there was a singer from the 1970s called Barry Manilow. So last year, at a fashion show, the fashion show ended and the curtains opened, and Barry Manilow, who's like, I think he's like an 85-year-old Las Vegas crooner, came out. That was kind of crazy. I once went to a fashion show and everyone was on roller skates. I once went to a fashion show in a boxing match. Fashion's crazy, so there's been a lot of crazy stories. But I would have to say Barry Manilow coming out at the end of a fashion show was pretty weird. That was very unexpected.
All right, we're gonna go to Alan next.
Hi, Alan.
Hi. Hi, my name is
Oh,
Alan.
Alan,
I'm
what
in the
happened to your hand?
Oh, I broke it.
How'd you break your hand?
I fell off a bike.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Can you still type? How do you do schoolwork?
I use my other hand.
Got it.
So, hi, my name is Alan. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, who is one person that taught you the most about working in fashion, and what did you learn about that person? What lessons have that person taught you?
That's a great question. When I was still in school, I did a semester abroad. So I lived in London for a year. And when I was there, I met a guy called Edward Enninful. Edward Enninful is the first ever Black editor of Vogue magazine. He works for British Vogue. He was born in Ghana. He'll kill me for saying this, but he's a little bit older than me. So he was a bit of a mentor for me. And he overcame a lot of adversity to become the first ever Black editor of British Vogue. And he constantly reminded me to persevere, to work hard, to try and not take things personally, which was very hard for me because I often got my feelings hurt. So if I think about mentorships and if I think about people who really helped me in the fashion world, it would probably be Edward. He was the one that encouraged me to always persevere. And he also taught me that no matter what, the most important thing, and this probably goes for any industry, is talent. So he was a very positive influence.
All right, we're gonna go to Catherine next.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi. Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, what was one of the biggest challenges you faced when moving from Missouri to New York? And today, what is your favorite thing about New York City?
Good question. Has anyone on this call, I think I know the answer to this. Has anyone here been to St. Louis or to Missouri? I doubt it. And don't go. It's not that exciting. So I think the biggest hurdle I had moving from Missouri to New York was feeling very lonely. So I moved here and I didn't have a friend. I didn't have auntie, a cousin, a friend of the family. So I really had to work hard to make friends from day one. And that was super hard because I'm super social. Also, at that time, I didn't have a cell phone, so I couldn't call home. I had to save up my money to go to the deli to buy a calling card to call my mom long distance. So the biggest hurdle I think I had when I moved from Missouri to New York was making friends and not being lonely. But I stuck it out, and now I've got a lot of friends. I promise, I'm very, very friendly. I've got a lot of friends now. And then, oh my goodness, I forgot the second part of your question. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
It's okay. What is your favorite
What's
thing
my
about
favorite
New
thing
York?
about New York? Is that right, Catherine? Yes. I guess my favorite thing about New York is 24-hour delivery. So, I'm a little bit of an insomniac, so I'm not really a morning person. I get a lot of my work done. I don't know if I should say this. Ivan, tell me if I'm giving bad advice. I get a lot of my work done after 9 o'clock. So when everyone else is asleep and everyone leaves me alone is when I can really like sit behind my computer and get through my emails and get all my stuff done. So if you're up at 9, 10, 11, 1 or 2, what I like about New York, which you could definitely not get in Missouri, I can't get a cheeseburger at 1 o'clock in Missouri. I can get a cheeseburger at 1 o'clock in New York. So that's what I like about living here.
All right, we're going to go to Vanessa next.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi. Hi, my name is Vanessa. I'm in the 7th grade. And my question for you is, when you are at a fashion show, what do you look for in a new collection? Does the way a model wear a piece ever affect your feelings about it?
Wow.
That's a great question. So I think, right now when we're going to fashion shows, people are sort of looking for different things. So for what I do at YouTube, I'm looking for sort of storytelling, for what a collection looks like, for the biggest and best, most charismatic models. But there are some other people sitting in the audience of a fashion show who maybe they work for stores, so they're looking for clothes that will sell well, or for example, little black dresses sell very well. So a lot of retailers are always looking for very wearable, sellable clothes. And your question about the models is a very good question, because I definitely think that there are some models who have so much charisma that when they put on clothes, they can make anything look good. And so there's also within the modeling industry sometimes a lot of competition for what designers can get which models, because a really good model is someone who arrives on time, looks good in the clothes, doesn't fall down on the runway. So to your point, yeah, there are some models who are very good at what they do. For example, there's a model called Gigi Hadid who's very popular right now. I mentioned Carly Kloss. She's really popular right now. There's a girl called Joan Smalls who's a huge model. She was born in Puerto Rico, but she lives here in New York now. There's a model I like called Lu Wen, who was born in China, and she lives in Shanghai, but she hasn't been to New York recently because of the COVID crisis. But I work with her a lot. And there's a really fabulous model called Adut, A-D-U-T, who is a African refugee who moved to Australia and was then discovered when she was 16. So when you're thinking about fashion shows and runways, you are definitely also thinking about the models who can make the clothes look the best.
All right, we're gonna go to Miriam next.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi. Hi, my name is Miriam. I'm in the 7th grade. And my question for you is, have you ever felt discriminated against as being an openly gay person?
Absolutely, Miriam, especially when I was a young person living in St. Louis, Missouri, which at the time was not a very liberal place to grow up, especially as part of the LGBTQ plus community. To be very honest with you, I didn't come out of the closet until I was 18 years old, and I lived in New York because I didn't feel safe sharing that information as a young person. I have gone back to Missouri. I've gone back to where I grew up, and I have good news, and that is that the high school I went to and the community that I grew up in has some open gay people living in it now. And so I think it's better for young people now. But absolutely, when I was young, there was a lot of discrimination and there was a lot of nastiness towards not only LGBTQ plus people, but also to minorities. But it's getting better, and that's, I think, all that we can really hope and pray for. But yes, I will say I was very excited to leave, but I'm very excited now to go back and see how things have changed.
Thanks, Derek. All right, Corey is up next.
What's up, Corey?
Hi, my name is Corey. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, what makes a good fashion party?
A good fashion party? That's a very good question. I'm happy you asked that. So what makes a good fashion party is obviously a good guest list. So you want to make sure that all your friends are there. You want to make sure that you pick a date when everyone can come. What also makes a good fashion party is good music. So you don't want to put off that to the last minute. You want to definitely think about playlists, or you want to ask your friend with the coolest taste to help you pick the music. And you also want to make sure you don't have a big important thing to do the next day, because if it's a really good party, you'll probably stay up late dancing. Those are my 3 tips for the best fashion party. Also, actually, one more tip, Corey, you want to make sure, and I've made this mistake a couple times, you want to make sure you're comfortable with what you're wearing. So sometimes I'll wear, I remember once I split the crotch of my pants at a party and I had to sit down for the whole night. I've had I've had friends who are girls who wear shoes that they can't stand up in. So guest list, music, have fun, and wear stuff that you can dance in.
Sounds good. All right, Tracy, you're up next.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi. So I love your energy, and my question for you is, why do you think people around you trust you so much and want to be around you?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I think because I moved to New York when I was 18 years old and I didn't have a single friend, it became very apparent to me in what makes a good friend, right? Which is listening to people when they talk, being able to keep a secret, sticking with your word. You know, I've made a lot of friends in New York, and I show up for all of their stuff. If they design a scented candle, I'll go to the launch party. So I really show up for people. And I think maybe it's just being able to crack a joke and laugh at myself. It's interesting. sometimes, you know, once in an interview, someone asked, you know, why does everyone want to be around you? And you know, I responded, and I didn't think it was very profound, but what I said was, because I always want to make sure I'm the sort of person that people want to have around. So that's sort of, I guess, what my guiding principle is. I also know how to keep a secret, so that's probably like the number one. I think the reason why so many people tell me their secrets is because I can keep them.
Okay, we're gonna go to Melissa next.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, what was it like to start a new job at YouTube as a head of beauty and fashion? What do you think fashion futures will look like on the internet and social media?
That's a really good question. So I graduated college. I went to journalism school, and I graduated college in 2004, and that's before YouTube was founded. And I thought I was going to work in magazines and newspapers my whole life. In the past few years, it became clear that magazines and newspapers were becoming digital properties, right? So to be very honest with you, I was very scared to leave the magazine world and go work for a digital company because it was something that was new and something foreign to me. But ultimately, I'm much happier working at YouTube and building this fashion and beauty program, especially this year. You know, I've been in New York during this quarantine since I've been in my apartment since, you know, March 4th. And I have to be honest with you, I've looked at a lot more YouTube videos than I have magazines. So I'm very happy that I decided a couple of years ago to work at YouTube. What's interesting, of course, is that the magazines that I thought I was going to work with, like Vogue, Vanity Fair, I still work with them now, but I work with them on creating video. So I think what appealed to me about journalism when I was a young person, working with photographers, meeting models, telling stories, explaining trends, doing makeovers, hair and makeup tutorials, all that stuff that I thought I was going to do with magazines, I still do now. I just do it in video at YouTube.
Yes.
So I still follow what I'm doing. I'm just doing it in a different way than I thought I would.
All right, we're going to go to Miguel next.
Hi, Miguel.
Hi. Hi, my name is Miguel. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question to you is, do you think fame changes people?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if this is the like politically correct response, but I'll tell you what I think anyway. I think fame is basically something that just amplifies who you are on the inside. So I have met some famous people who are really nice, and I would like to think that they've always been very nice, and fame has just made them nicer. And I have met some famous people who are total, what's a good word? How can I put this? Jerk. Is jerk fine? Jerk, okay. And I would like to think those jerks were bad people, and fame has just amplified their, you know, their closed-mindedness or their toxic perspective or their selfishness. So yes, fame definitely changes people, but I think the good people who get famous stay good, and unfortunately, there are some people who become successful who are not great people. But I try not to be friends with them.
Okay, we're gonna go to Geraldine next.
Hi, Geraldine.
Hi. Hi, my name is Geraldine. I'm in the 7th grade. And my question for you is, where did you think your first job in fashion would take you? And could you have ever imagined that you would end up working with so many famous fashion icons?
That's a great question, Geraldine. So, no. when I started my career, I definitely didn't think I would still be working in the same industry that I started in. There's a lot of burnout rate in fashion. There's, the average life of a model in fashion is really about 4 or 5 years, and so you see a lot of turnover. And I never thought I'd be working at a tech company. So when I think about one thing I think I've done well in my 20-year career in fashion has been the ability to sort of roll with the punches, right? So I thought I was going to work in magazines my whole life. Magazines started making video content, so now I work at a video company. Has been the ability to be fluid and make sure that you're not being inflexible to the changing times. So I definitely, when I was working at modeling agencies or press companies or interning at Vogue, I definitely never thought I would be the head of fashion at the world's largest social media company, which is YouTube. And I'm really grateful that my journey has gotten me there. And to your other question, I am continually sort of surprised and baffled when I get to work with someone like Ralph Lauren or Naomi Campbell or some of these iconic people who've been in fashion for so many generations. My birthday was in April, and Naomi Campbell Instagrammed a picture of us for my birthday, and I was so shocked I almost fainted. So I'm definitely still surprised and happy that I get to work with so many incredible fashion people that I've looked up to for so long.
Wow. Derek, we want to be mindful of your time. Do you have time for 2 more questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. We're going to go to Sophia next then.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi. Well, hi, my name is Sophia. I'm in the 7th grade, and my question for you is, what is your favorite place besides New York and why?
Ooh, good question. If I could be anywhere besides New York right now, where would I be? Well, I like to see my mom in Missouri, but that's not exotic enough. That's not a good one. So maybe there's a bunch of really beautiful small towns on the south coast of Italy on the Mediterranean Sea. And when I was a couple years ago, I took a little car and I drove through all of them, and it was super picturesque and gorgeous and tropical, and there was pasta everywhere. So if I could be anywhere right now, I wish I would like to be driving down those little small towns and eating all that pasta.
That sounds pretty good. All right, our last question will come from Jeremiah.
Hi, Jeremiah.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah. I'm in the 7th grade, and I would like to thank you for speaking to us today. And my question for you is, what is one thing you would change about the fashion industry and why?
That's a good question. If I could change one thing about the fashion industry, it would be the amount of waste that I think is associated with what a lot of brands do. So a lot of brands overproduce. There are some brands, and Jeremiah, when I tell you this, you're probably going to be shocked, but there are some brands that in the past, brands like Burberry and Louis Vuitton and Gucci, they used to burn unsold merchandise. So if there were extra bags or extra shoes, they would incinerate them, which I thought was crazy. A lot of them have been forced to stop to do that due to environmental protection laws. But I definitely think if there's one thing I could magically change about the fashion world, it would be to quit wasting so much product and to get a better grasp on the pollution that is produced in the fashion production chain. Which is super depressing. I'm sorry, Jeremiah. I wish I had a better answer. But yeah.
Good.
Fashion is what I love about my job is, getting to meet all these incredibly charismatic, talented, awesome people with these incredible points of view. But there is definitely a darker side of fashion, and a lot of that has to do with pollution. So hopefully going forward, we'll be able to help fix that too.
Thank you so much, Derek. We're going to end with just another quick moment of silence. Andrea Gomez will lead us once again in a short meditation just to take in all that you've shared with us. And then Ivan will share some of his final reflections, if that's okay.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
Well, you exceeded your billing. People do love you, and I think all of us have a better sense of why. Behind every great man is a great woman, I like to say. And Devin, thank you so much for bringing Derek to us. You have been a light to our school in very challenging times. Derek, you embody all the things that we hope to embody as adults here at the East Harlem School and as students as they graduate. In our mission, one of the key phrases is that we want to teach children to adapt to change, and you spoke so powerfully about that. And then the next phrase is to create and share a life of deep meaning, dynamic virtue, and transcendent joy. And you just created this beautiful life coming from Missouri and hitting our shores at the age of 18. And you really have brought other people into your fold in a way and given a resonance and a depth, I think, to fashion. And you're still so young, and I really look eagerly, and we will all eagerly watch our new friend as you bring depth and greater depth and resonance to the lives of the beautiful and connected to the rest of us through the World Wide Web. And then finally, you talked about Maya Angelou, and it's kind of trippy because she's come up with a lot of our graduates in this COVID-19 graduation year, and they have this one quotation from her that says, "People won't remember what you say or what you do, but how you make them feel." And how you make people feel in the larger world is quite magical. And we got a little taste of that magic today for this beautiful shining hour. And I think also people will remember what you said today and what you're doing in the fashion world and connecting it to larger issues of sustainability and inclusion and probably most important, we've had fun, and we know all the depth of preparation and virtues and values that you have in your spirit that allowed us to have so much fun this time. And then Derek, do you have any final remarks, or Devin? It's just been phenomenal. Thank you so much.
I'm so honored that you guys had me today. This was a thrill. I'm such a huge fan of the East Harlem School. I've heard so many great things about Ivan. My boyfriend went to a school that Ivan graduated from, so Ivan's a bit of a legend amongst my crew. And I'm happy to meet you guys. And it's, you guys are gonna have to fix everything we messed up. So God bless you.
Yeah, well, just wonderful. And whenever some young person tells you you're a legend, it's a polite way of saying you're old. But I'll take that, Derek. It really is just phenomenal. Devin has sung your praises, and then we've seen it in the media. But what a beautiful life you're unfolding and a pleasure you've given. Devin, do you have any final remarks for us? It was fantastic.
No, I'm so grateful to Derek for joining us and giving everyone that says the great thing and how much fun and joyful it is to be around you. And thanks, so many great questions this morning. So big thanks to everyone.
Well, thank you so much again. And Devin and Derek, take good care. Derek, we're going to see you on our judging our next poetry slam, and we're together.
But do it.
What a joy you are, and so I get it. Why all these fancy people love you. And tell Mr. Brown, like I said, what's up, and hope to see him soon.
I'll tell him. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.